Hello, it's Nick Thompson, the Gut Doctor here. I hope you're very well. It's Thursday, 8 o'clock, so it's time to talk about all things parasites, all things herbs, and all things natural. Very many thanks to our friends at Verm-X who make this evening's presentation and all our Gut Doctor presentations possible. So many thanks to them. Tonight we're going to be talking about ectoparasites. I'm going to tell you about those, and we're going to be talking about in particular scaly leg, because it's a very good example of parasites that appear on the outside of the the chicken's body, and we're going to be diving deep into that and looking at what we can do to help our feathered friends. So I'm going to give a presentation to you here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pop the screen there, and then I'm going to go down here. And then if we go like this, you should be able to see that. Now Rosie will confirm that she can see that screen, and I should be in the corner, and you should be able to see the screen up there. So she's saying that's all good. So great. Because when I'm on this screen, I can't see any of your responses. So if you have a burning question, please wait till the end. We're going to do about 20 minutes or so on looking at chickens, and then we're going to have some questions and answers for the last part of the presentation. Okay, so chickens, scaly leg, ectoparasites, and health. Okay, that's what we're looking at tonight. It's always nice to start with a nice picture of good, healthy birds. And you notice in this picture we've got pale birds and we've got dark birds, and we're going to be talking about that soon, because what happens with many of the ectoparasites, you can't see them very easily on dark birds. So if you've got one or two light birds within the flock that you've got, then you can use them as sentinels, so that because if one of your birds has got mites or some flea or some kind of infestation, if one of them's got them, then they all probably have them. And so if you've got a sentinel bird or two, that makes life a little bit easier to find these things. So let's start with the basics. We always like, on the Gut Doctor, we always like to give you a bit of background rather than just saying do this, do this, do this. It's nice to have a bit of background so that you can see why we do these things and why we think the way we do. Yeah, and it also gives us an idea of how we can use the natural products to their best advantage, to avoid using pharmaceuticals where we possibly can. Yeah, pharmaceuticals are great; they've got their place. But if we can avoid them, so much the better. So let's start with at the beginning. Let's go right back to the basics and say, what is a parasite? What is the definition of a parasite? So the Cambridge Dictionary tells me that a parasite is an animal or plant that lives on or in. That's really important, okay? Because when we think of parasites, we think of worms, and we think they're on the inside and you can't see them. Okay, the beauty of these parasites that we're describing tonight on chickens is that they are on the outside. And so, with a bit of practice, if the birds have got them, you can see them. Okay, so that's where we want to get to tonight. So they are on or in another animal or plant of a different type, and feeds from that other organism. Okay, it's kind of obvious, but it's on or in. That's what I wanted to get across. Within veterinary medicine, the parasites on the inside are called endoparasites, and on the outside they're called exoparasites. A bit like an insect has an exoskeleton, meaning it's a skeleton on the outside, whereas we humans, we have an endoskeleton, meaning we have our skeleton on the inside. Okay, so endo and exo. So this is classically what you think about when I say parasites, chicken parasites to you. You think worms, okay? And so the Ascaridia galli, classic large round worm, you will have all have seen them. Basically, as the diagram. And thank you very much to the Poultry DVM site for these great graphics, really lovely graphics, really good site actually. So that's a good place to go for some information. So an infected bird, this is the black bird here, she matures eggs into larvae and then into adults in her gut, and those adults then pass eggs out through the vent onto the ground, and then another bird comes pecking along and picks up the eggs that have been deposited on the ground, and thus the life cycle begins again. It's a very simple, it's called a direct life cycle, in that one bird passes it directly to another. And this is why, if at all possible, you can keep the birds free range. Obviously not at the moment because of the government restrictions because of avian flu, but in the normal course of events, the broader the range of those birds, the healthier they're going to be, the happier they're going to be as well. So that's really, really important. So that's a great idea to use there. So this is the direct life cycle. That's what you typically think about. Okay, but if the parasites live on the outside of the body, they have a very different life cycle. Okay, which we're going to look at shortly, and we can manipulate that life cycle. Are parasites deadly? Well, actually, yes, they can be in humans. For example, malaria is a parasite, and it can kill you. It doesn't tend to in the West these days. We're lucky, it carries off, hundreds of thousands of people every year. But in the West, we don't have it because of the climate in the States and in Europe. But modern medicines can get on top of malaria usually quite easily. However, parasites, internal and external parasites, usually are at their worst when they're allowed to run riot, when they get worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay, and that's what we have to defend against, and therefore management and prevention is key here. So prevent getting them in the first place, and if you do get them, you land on them very, very quickly, and you keep your eye out in order to keep an eye so that you catch them very, very early. So this is the classic endoparasite. It's a roundworm, and you'll keep an eye on the poos. Everybody does. And so if you see any worms like that, you'll be talking to the vet, or you'll be talking to your worm product producer in order to get on top of that acute problem. That's really important, to get on top of it early. That's my strong advice. Okay. Now, ectoparasites outside, these are parasites on the outside, slightly different kettle of fish. There are a number of different beasties that live on the chickens, and we'll go through how to find them. But really, what we're trying to look at here is what general signs are we looking at? And so all of the ectoparasites, the little beasties that live on your chickens, they all cause irritation of the skin and of the scales and things like this. So they're irritating. Now, chickens are not given to complaining. Yeah, you can do a lot to your hens, and they don't really complain too much, depending on how well you know them, because they can get in a right strop. But that's only for those who know their birds a little more, perhaps. However, even for the uninitiated, if we're looking out for restlessness, real increase in frequency of itching and scratching and preening, then that will be the first sign. Now, our birds will they come every morning as it's getting light. They come to the back door, French windows, and they all just sit there and they're preening. And they do that, and they do the same as the light is going, say about, at the moment, about 4:30, and they have that preening session. If, however, we saw those birds doing that a lot more, you know, they were there in the morning, but they were there and, you know, really preening like mad for hours and hours and hours, as opposed to 20 minutes and then off, we'd think, aha, there's a change here. Let's have a look. Let's get in a little bit closer and have a look at the birds, okay? Other subtle changes that you might see. So the first is changing perch location. So you might generally, and most people don't notice this because they don't spend hours at night looking at where their hens are within the hen house. But if your hens are normally all over the place and they're in their nesting boxes and all very happy, and then all of a sudden they're all over on one side, or all of a sudden they're all at the top of the house, whereas normally they're all over, then it's obvious that there's something up. Okay, they're not happy with something and they're moving away from it. That's a really, really good sign. Again, most people don't spend hours looking at their hen, so you might miss these kind of signs. What's something that is a little more obvious is they may not want to go back in the coop because they know even before you that the coop is riddled with mites and little beasties, and they don't want to go in. Okay, so just be aware, you know, where normally the birds will go in at dusk and everything's absolutely fine. If there is a reluctance, and this will be subtle to start with, but if there's a reluctance, you know to look in a little bit further, okay? And the other, and you may notice it because sometimes they go and lay in all sorts of strange places, but if there's a kind of a trend away from the hens laying in the hen house, in the chicken coop, to laying out in the garden or elsewhere that they have access to, i.e. they're trying to avoid the chicken coop, then that is a really good clue that there might be something up. So looking at the coop itself, okay, if you've got a really old coop and it's kind of slatter board, are they called, you know, where you've got lots of cracks and crevices, yeah, we got board against board against board, and then you've got the same on the roof. This is paradise if there are any mites or ticks or insects within the, you know, biting insects within the coop, because that's where they live. So so anything you can do to cut down on those areas. So what some people do is they will fill in with, you know, with silicone gel or putty or paint. So all the little crevices are covered over. That's a very good way to do it. In the old days, we used to use creosote, but creosote is pretty toxic, so I'm not sure that's a great idea. But if you've got a really old, and you're getting lots of mite problems, just burn the coop and get a new wooden one, get a new boarded one, but get a brand new, spanking new, and paint it like mad so that there are fewer cracks and crevices for the mites to go in. Okay, if you've got mites or you suspect mites and you need to, and you want to look in the coop because that's where they hide, then the place to look is in the cracks and crevices. So between the boards, or in what we often find is in the corners. Okay, if you're looking in the corners, you're looking for, it looks a little bit like there's a not a great diagram there. It looks a little bit like cigarette ash. It's kind of flaky, pale, flaky material in a line. It's the distribution which really gives you it. Okay, so if you see that, then oh crumbs, we've got mites. There are preparations and there are sprays and things you can do. You can get to treat the inside of your coop, but again, it's prevention's better than cure. We'll talk about that in a slide or two. If you're looking, you can look at night and you look for the mites, and they might be moving along the perches. Now that creeps most people out, but if you can have a look, what you can also do is you get a white sheet, a white some white kitchen paper, and you take it underneath, and you're looking for smears of blood where the little critters have excreted blood onto the white sheet. So that's where you'll find them in the coop. Okay, so if you can't find them on the bird, you need to have a really, really good look at the coop, because if those birds are itching, then they are guilty of having mites until proved completely innocent. Okay, so have a good look, and if you can't find them, give it a couple of weeks and then look again. Okay, most of these things have a 3-week life cycle, so 2 weeks between treatments, 2 weeks between examinations is a good idea. So we've looked at the coop, can't find anything there. Maybe it's early days, maybe that we've just got the early stages and they're only on the birds. Okay, they tend to inhabit the coop first and then you'll find them on the birds, but who knows, lots of strange things can happen. So let's just look at how we find them on the bird. There are 4 areas we look at. We look at the head and the face, we look at the vent, we look at under the wings, okay, and then we look at the feet for different mites. On the face, you're looking for what look like pale, what are they called? Blackheads. Yeah, humans get them in the nose, and they're called Sticktight fleas, and they will be in the wattle and in the face combs. Okay, you find them in the States as well, perhaps more in the States, but the world is warming up, and so these can be a problem over here as well. So that's what we're looking for on the face. And mites, you can sometimes see mites when you just get incredible encrusting. Okay, if in doubt, go to the vet and they'll be able to do some scrapes to identify them positively. Around the vent region, we're looking for poultry lice, and poultry lice are great to look for because and the way to do it is in dim light. So of an evening, you will take one of the hens and you have it upside down on your lap, and you'll look around the vent area, and you'll separate the feathers, and then you'll get a torch, a bright torch, and shine it onto the skin, and you'll see, and it's great, I love it, but maybe that's just been a vet for too long, but you'll see all these poultry lice running away from the light because they don't like the light. That's because they're deep beneath the feathers. Okay, and they're running away, and then you've got a positive identification that you have these beasties. We've got some treatments further down. Also, we're looking for fowl mite, which you will find in the vent region, perhaps under the wings. Fowl mite is a little bit. You'll see the results of the infestation. You won't see the beasts themselves. You'll see fecal material. So they bite, they take in blood, and they poo little bloody dots, and that's what you'll see. If you get a white sheet and dab it onto those, it'll spot pink and will be able to smear, and then you'll know you have fowl mite, for which you need to look at treatment. Under the wings, if you're looking under the wings, you might see little black sesame seeds. They can be as small as sesame seeds. They can be kind of lentil size, and those are fowl ticks. Okay, they're like ticks which are more they are predicated towards birds, and you'll get them sometimes from wild birds. 4th area is the feet, and this is fairly easy because basically you'll see the hens' legs and feet are beautiful things. They're beautiful scale. They're normal, smooth scales, and they're very flexible and lovely to touch. If you're getting crusting and roughness, and you're seeing the hens are really quite agitated, they're biting, they're irritated with their legs, then you may have scaly leg, and we'll talk about therapeutics for scaly leg in a minute. On the diagram here, from our friends at Poultry DVM. We've got pictures there of the Poultry Louse. We've got the Sticktight Flea. You've got Scaly Leg mite and the Fowl Mites. So the Poultry Louse there. Let me show you using the technology here. Laser pointer. So this guy is a biting louse, and it's on the surface and just bites surface squames of skin, and you can tell it's a bite. It's on the surface because it's got legs. This fella here, this mite is down, burrowing down into the scales on the legs, and having legs when you're trying to burrow through skin is not a great idea. So these guys have very, very, very truncated legs. And if you want a real horror story, just look up the Nebidocoptes mutans, which is the beast there, and you'll see a horror story because you'll see electron microscope pictures and things like that. So all good stuff, yeah. Like I say, prevention's better than cure. So for some things, you'll know most of these, but I'll just go through them just to be on the safe side. If there's any wild birds nesting anywhere near your hens, then get rid of them, hopefully in an appropriate manner, but try and have wild birds nesting away, because nests of wild birds can be a real hotspot for mites and lice and things like that. Here says he scratching. Controlling rats and mice, because obviously they're just infested with fleas and ticks and lots of lice and horrible ectoparasites. Quarantining new birds, I think, is really, really important. And I was just thinking about this before we went on. And there's two real ways. Now, if you haven't got a lot of space, you're going to say to me, "Oh, I can't quarantine because I haven't got any space." If you haven't got any space, then what you could do is, after you buy the bird, you ask the bird rearer to put your birds away from the general flock that you get them from. You check them when you've bought them, and then you leave them with the person for a couple of weeks, away from any contact with any other birds. Hopefully there'll be a few birds together so you don't get lonely. And you go and then check them 2 weeks later, and if there's no sign after 2 weeks of isolation from the main flock, then there's your quarantine. Okay. Ideally, you would do that quarantine at home. So you take them from the breeder, and you would take them home, and you would have a pen away from your birds so that your birds can't wander up and say hello. They would be away and quarantined. So and you check them when they come in, and then you check them again a couple of weeks later. And if they're still clean, squeaky clean, then you let them all in together. And that's a really good way of doing it, because that's the main way that you will introduce these ectoparasites into your hen house, your coop. Don't trim beaks. This is an American graphic, so in this country it's illegal, I believe, to trim beaks, and if it's not, it should be. When I was training, they were still doing this, and I just think it's absolutely terrible. If they are mutilating each other, it's because they're desperately unhappy, and and therefore you need to do something about the housing, not chop their beaks off so they can't mutilate each other. Okay, so don't beak trim. Don't go anywhere near any breeders that do it. I think it's illegal anyway, so that's kind of taken care of itself. Wild birds, try and keep the birds away from wild birds, because there may be some crossover with parasites, lice, mites, things like that. Okay, really, really good. And the girls, the chickens, will really thank you for this. If you can get a good sized dust bath filled with diatomaceous earth. It's spelt there, diato, diatomaceous, diatomaceous earth. That's really good, because it gets into between the feathers and onto the skin, and all ectoparasites absolutely hate it. Now, if you've got scaly leg, the diatomaceous earth is not really going to penetrate right into the scales, and so it's not going to be good there. But for mites and lice and things like that, brilliant. You can dust them. So that would be really the treatment for me, the non-pharmaceutical treatment of choice. You would dust the birds with this. Even if you'd made a bath and they weren't really into doing it, I would be dusting them. Okay, you can get dusting treatment. Some of those treatments have a bit of neem in them as well, and all of these things are good. Okay, they're available from Amazon and from the chicken websites. If you've got branches and you keep on getting mites, lice problems, then you've got to get rid of the branches. A much better perch is a well sanded, prepared bit of timber, rounded obviously to save from bumblefoot, but that's the best way to do it. The ideal is to put some sealant on it so that there are no cracks or crevices for any beasties to get in. Okay, so that's really important. And don't use twigs from a tree, even though they look good. You're not running a zoo, so don't use branches. Coops. If you've got a knackered old coop, get rid of it. Start afresh. Seriously, it'll save you a lot of problems. Just start afresh. Keep the birds, dose them and what have you, but get rid of the coop and start afresh and get it sealed and get all those little cracks and crevices sealed. Don't get the cheapo ones which have a bit of a rough finish, because you are just inviting problems from mites and lice and all these ectoparasites. Okay, so it's all there. You can look back on the video and all the information is there. So lots of treatments for scaly leg. This is to do with scaly leg mainly. As far as the problems on the body, diatomaceous earth is the way to go. Dosing them every week for a month, say, would be a good idea. But for scaly leg, we would be looking at classically, and the British Hen Welfare Trust, they've been using Vaseline and Swarfiga, of all things, for years and years, and never had a problem, because technically these petroleum products can be a problem. Vaseline is derived from petroleum, and chickens don't like those kind of things. However, Vaseline doesn't seem to be a problem. And the idea with scaly leg is that you are suffocating the bugs on the legs, and they suffocate. You kill them. You repeat the treatment. I would do it every week or every fortnight until the problem disappears, and that can be very effective. Okay, simple stuff. Going slightly more pharmaceutically orientated, you can get ivermectin from Mole Valley farmers or from countrywide and things like that, or equivalents of those stores. And you're looking for an ivermectin, you do a 1:50 dilution. Propylene glycol is an easy way to do it, and you just leather it on, because the ivermectin kills the ectoparasites. Okay, and that's the way to do it. It is a pharmaceutical, but you can get it from kind of proprietary. You can get it for budgies and what have you. So that is a possibility. Just thinking about this, if you've just got a few birds and you really, really, really don't want to use pharmaceuticals, and you're not really keen on using Vaseline or Swarfiga, then my wife makes this stuff for dogs, and it's called.
Sorry,
I
couldn't hear what you said.
That's my watch talking to me. She makes this stuff, and it's based on beeswax and coconut oil, and so you have that kind of Vaseline-y effect, but it also has geranium oil, which is anti-parasitic. And so I've never tried it, but just as I was making up this talk for you, I just thought, oh, that might be very, very useful, because we have that suffocation effect, but we also have a healing effect because the manuka in it, and the geranium is very effective as an antiparasitic, as I say. So next time or yeah, please God, we don't see it. But if we do see it, that will probably be where we go with our birds, because we don't want to use anything too heavy, because you have to throw the eggs. And I just don't want to use a pharmaceutical if I can possibly help it. So there we go. Treatments. Classically, people talk about Savlon or Hibby Scrub, but I just think that's a little bit harsh. It's not going to do much for your for scaly leg, because it won't really kill the mites. If they've got lesions on their legs where they've been pecking their legs or something like this, it might help. But you know what? If it was me, I would use the Calm Balm, the waxy treatment, because that will help to heal, but it will also seal the wound, and it has a waterproofing effect, which is brilliant. One of the official veterinary ways of doing it is you stand the bird in methylated spirit and kind of soak the legs, and I'm sure that will absolutely kill anything within the legs very, very rapidly. But can you imagine having raw, sore, scaly, itchy legs, and then somebody comes along and puts methylated spirits on those legs, and they'd go right off my Christmas card very, very, very quickly. So technically, that is a way of doing it, but I'm not sure that's my treatment of choice. Okay, not my treatment of choice. And if you're having problems, go and see the vet. All right, it's as simple as that. That's what they're there for. There's an old adage within holistic medicine is don't treat the disease, treat the patient. Okay, and so looking at that, how can we keep our birds in such fabulous health, their immune system in really resilient, robust health? And for me, that would be using herbs. Okay, Verm-X do some really nice products. They've got the Keep Well and the Poultry Zest, both of which are herbal formulations to help to enhance gut and overall health. And the reason that I'm saying it, yeah, they are helping us this evening, but the reason is because they're great things to use. They can give a bloom. The ideal, obviously, is to use the real thing, is to put chopped herbs within any food that you're feeding the chickens. And obviously, if you've got 40,000 chickens, you're not going to give them herbs. You're not even going to give them Verm-X, probably individually. But if you've got 4, 6, 12 backyard chickens and you're feeding them on a daily basis, get those herbs: rosemary, sage, parsley, thyme, and all of the herbs that you can find in the garden. Chop them up, put them into the food. Really fantastic. Chickens love to peck insects and things, but they'll also peck grass and herbs and things. So this is completely natural thing to do it. The beauty of the Keep Well and the Poultry Zest is that somebody's done it for you, and you just chuck it in the food and off you go. So for busy people who've got backyard chickens, these are great things to do. So definitely worth looking at that. Make sure the diet is the best you can afford. If you've got layers, they obviously need layers pellets, because they need that mineral, the calcium, in order to chuck out eggs on a daily basis. In summer, we feed a little bit less of the layers pellets, because they're out and they are, when they can, they are in the garden picking up insects a lot, and so we like them to get a lot of their nutrition from the garden and from the woods surrounding our property. But do what you can to make sure that nutrition is the best you can possibly be. If in doubt, give the guys at Verm-X a shout, and they'll be able to guide you on Keep Well, Poultry Zest. There's a Verm-X for poultry as well, and they do one for cats. And if you look in the background, there's the chicken version. They do a dog and cat version. Well, they do kind of little daily crunchies, or they do a liquid that you can treat with as well. So there you go. That's it, really. So what were the conclusions? That's a picture of Scaly Leg, by the way, and that's a really bad case. And if you've let it get to that stage, or maybe you've been given one who's got things. That is scaly leg, and it looks almost like an oyster. Yeah. It's fairly late in the day, and you need to really get on top of that to treat. But remember, treat the coop. Prevention's better than cure. Diatomaceous earth when there are bodily mites and lice. If you've got scaly leg, then consider something that's going to suffocate them and have a healing effect at the same time. Feed well, feed herbs. Herbs are integral to the life of a very healthy chicken. It's really simple as that. And these are old adages. I just thought I'd like to bring them all together for you here. There we go. That's us. Let's come back to where we are. We're there. There we go. So we'll go there, and that's me back. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Let's have a look. Terry Pinney from Australia. G'day, Terry. I hope your birds are well. Let's have a look. Here we go. This is, I do know Moddy, but I don't pay her to say things like that. My hubby says, all you've said is brilliant. Ellie's remedy will be our choice. Yeah, great. Okay, Moddy. Yeah, much love. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Let's have a look. Carol. What's Carol saying? I never had scaly leg yet. Well, prevention's better than cure. But we have the Dermadog balm for our dog. Yeah, brilliant. You know, if you've got it in for the dog, use it on the kids, use it on you. Seriously, use it. We use Dermadog, their soaps. We use them. I use them in the shower every morning. Absolutely brilliant. We use them on the kids. So there you go. You heard it here first. Rosie Harding, last question here. Rosie says, other than diatomaceous earth, can you recommend anything else to clean the coop that isn't chemically based? Yeah, I would be using products a little bit like cedar side. Cedar is an essential oil that parasites absolutely hate. Cedar side is primarily a product which is used for fleas and ticks in dogs and cats. But one of the little tricks, and for horses and whoever, humans even, one of the little tricks that you can do is you can use it to spray the house. If you've got access, or you're interested in essential oils, you can make up your own spray. I would be looking at the cedar oils, the geranium oils. I would be looking at the lavender oils, the clove oils, the eucalyptus oils. So there's really pungent, maybe neem oil as well. And you would just make up a really very strong preparation, and you just spray absolutely everything. Absolutely soak the coop, and if you want to be really sure of it, you do that twice a year to make sure that any beasts and bugs are not going to be there. But if you've prepped your coop properly, and there aren't really many little nooks and crannies that these bugs can live in, then you may be able to get away with only making up that kind of solution when you had to. So hope that does the trick for you there, Rosie. Okay, I said that was the last one. Let's do another one. Claire says, we have a couple of chickens who keep getting lice. Right, we'll treat enclosure as an animal sanctuary, the chickens, and even move them elsewhere, but these particular ones keep getting them no matter what we do. Any ideas? Okay, so I would be looking at the coop. I would be having a massive blitz on the coop, and if it's old, you might have to start again, as I say. If it's not old, I would be painting it on the inside in a really, really, really big way. As far as the birds are concerned, I would treat them to a E dust bath, because that will be really very effective. And if that doesn't do the trick, then talk to the vet about perhaps ivermectin. Obviously, you're going to be feeding them very well. You're going to be using herbs and the poultry zest or some of the herbal products to promote immunity in the best possible way. But that's it. You're doing everything right. I would just get a little more aggressive and don't take any prisoners. Yeah, if the coop is bad, get rid of it. Start afresh where possible, and dust bathing. And if you're not making progress, have a chat with the vet, because they might be kind of fundamentally ill, perhaps. There we go, guys. I apologize. We've gone way over time. Thank you for bearing with us this evening. It's been good. I've really quite enjoyed it. Thank you. We will be back in 4 weeks with another gut doctor. If you bear with me for 1 second, I'll tell you what it is. I should know this, but have you found it? It's been so busy. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are doing for the gut doctor. Getting it right from the start, caring for young animals. So we're going to be talking about puppies and kittens and worms and food and all of these things, and a little bit about parasites, ectoparasites as well, fleas and ticks. So 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about puppies and kittens and young animals and what we can do using natural products as a frontline treatment against ill health and against ectoparasites. So there we go. That's us. Best of luck. Difficult times for all of us. I wish you luck. I really look forward to seeing you in 4 weeks' time. If you've got any queries at all, give Cheryl and the gang at Verm-X a buzz, and they will look after you. Lots of information on the Verm-X website as well. I know, because I wrote half of it. And yeah, do your best, work hard, do your reading, and I look forward to seeing you in 4 weeks' time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.